there was a period when I was watching like shitty rom-coms like She's All That, you know, that kind of film. I think I watched this during that period and expecting this to be along the same lines, or at least at the same level, and only to be quite pleasantly surprised. I actually am not that embarrassed, but somehow I'm made to feel embarrassed for liking A Knight's Tale. Like, I tell my friends, they're like, oh, well, one of your favorite films, and I go, Knight's Tale. They're like, really? Like, are you being sarcastic? Like, really, what's your favorite film? Or, well, you know, really, what's a real one? This movie makes very interesting use of music, and fashion for that matter. Like, it's a movie set in medieval times, but they use music, contemporary modern music, and it doesn't feel out of place. Like, they juxtapose the contemporary and the medieval, but it works. Like, it shouldn't work, but it works. You know, the way the girl's dressed in a very modern, almost emo kind of way. Like, it all works, although it shouldn't. Pretty much anything where Paul Bettany shines, like, that's the character I connect with the most. So his entrance,
Yes! Behold, my lord,
the first time he builds the legend of Ulrich von Liechtenstein, and he's a herald, and he's giving him this grand entrance, and you're like, wow, okay, this works, man. Like, you know, he's getting the crowd roused.
of his turbulence!
That works. Another scene is when the relationship between Paul Bettany's character, Geoffrey Chaucer, and Will, Heath Ledger character, gets established. Heath Ledger has to make a decision. Do I just let this guy go, or do I save him and put my own money and, you know, life on the line? Heath Ledger makes a snap decision and goes,
release him. For God's sake, give him back his clothes.
and you see the, like, immediate,
And you'll get
the
it.
connection form between them. Like, you know, in that moment, Paul Bettany is like, yeah, you, like, I am in debt, I'm indebted to you, and I will do in my power as a writer, as an orator, as a teller of stories to make your legend grand. The structure of it is perfect. Like, there are multiple relationships. The main one being the boy and the girl, but there are any number of relationships in it. One of the relationships is Heath Ledger's character and the character of a fighter that he fights, who ends up respecting him, who in the end ends up being the Prince of England.
Still you rode?
They only have, I think, 3 scenes to establish the growth of the relationship.
Men love you. If I knew nothing else.
In those 3 scenes, they have an entire arc with an emotional connection, introduction, the formation of a bond, and a culmination of their story.
And that is knightly too.
And that's not the only one. There are the little relationships, like there's a side character that's played by Alan Tudyk. Him and Paul Bettany's character, they have a very antagonistic relationship throughout the film. The very introduction, like, he threatens to beat him up. He beats him up a number of times. And then right at the end, they play on that and they show him his friends. It adds another layer to this picture, above layer, above layer. The film doesn't quite shy away from social issues. You know, little things like, you know, handling the duplicity of the clergy or the church. There's a scene where the churchman, or, you know, the clergy, is telling the girl off for being a little, you know, girly and enjoying the guy's company, and then he gives her the hand to kiss.
That is lovely.
And he's like really offended by a comment on his own extravagance. You know, it's still dealing with social issues in a interesting, but, you know, from almost coming at it from a tangent. The relationship with the father, which actually only emerges towards the second half of the film, I think that's what made the film particularly emotional for me. And, you know, there's a bit where the young son has expressed a very strong desire to be a knight, and the father sort of travels miles on a ferry and gives him to this knight, and you know, as the knight's accepted him, and the father says, you know, effectively that I've done all I can for you. This is all I can do. Now you go and pursue your dreams. And the father is sort of riding away. Like, I have experienced that, but they don't stop right there. At the time the father is leaving, the boy says,
I'm afraid.
Of what?
I won't know the way back home.
Don't be foolish, William. You just follow your feet.
and the father asks,
Has he followed his feet?
I'm like, oh man, that connected me now.
Oh my God.
I can still feel the emotional connection of that moment. You know, when the father realizes that his son has come back to him. You know, it's a genuinely heartfelt, touching moment. People don't realize that it actually rises beyond that level and gives you something a lot more. You know, the acting is much better, the storytelling is much better, the emotional impact it has is much better. Everything the story is doing is much better than a typical rom-com. That is okay for the moment, but you know, they don't last the test of time. This film does. Like, satisfied. You know, like, it's cheesy. The whole thing about Will, a man being able to change the stars, an impossible task. Because of how well structured it is, how emotional the connections are, like, it works. The cheesiness works in this. Fucking hell, man, I've said this like 4 times. Like, it's lost all emotional
Can you
impact
just get on with it?
Like, I have
Nobody.
The first time I said it, I was
I
like
know.
tearing up. Second time a little bit. Now I'm like, I have no emotion left. I'm like, I feel nothing.